Welcome to this explainer. What if I told you that the FIFA World Cup isn't just the biggest soccer tournament on the planet, but it's actually one of the most formidable, ruthless economic engines in all of global sports? Today, we're looking way past the pitch, we're ignoring the players for a second, and we are looking straight into the bank accounts to uncover the hidden economics of FIFA.
And I want to anchor our whole conversation today on one single staggering concept: billions. Because every 4 years, an absolutely unbelievable amount of capital gets mobilized for this one single event. We're talking about countries spending literally billions of dollars just for the privilege of hosting it. To put that into perspective, recent host nations have dropped anywhere from $15 billion to over $200 billion on infrastructure alone. Then you've got global companies spending billions to advertise and billions of passionate fans tuning in. The sheer scale of cash moving across borders for a 4-week tournament is truly unprecedented.
But here's the really shocking part, and honestly, the ultimate paradox of this whole phenomenon. The financial outcomes are wildly split. While host countries usually end up saddled with immense debt long after the final whistle blows, FIFA itself walks away with billions of dollars in pure profit. Take Brazil back in 2014, for example. They spent roughly $15 billion to host. The result? A massive public deficit and highly specialized stadiums that later on completely struggled to find any sustainable purpose. Meanwhile, the organizers walked away with record-breaking revenues. It's just a mind-blowing contrast between the governing body and the local hosts.
Which brings us to the absolutely crucial question, the one we are going to answer right now. How does FIFA actually make so much money? And maybe even more importantly, why on earth are host countries willing to spend billions of their own taxpayer dollars for just one single month of soccer? Well, let's follow the money and find out exactly where all this cash is flowing.
Part 1, the world's biggest money machine. Okay, let's dive into this.
First, we need to totally reframe how we think about the revenue generated by a massive sporting event like this. Let's start by busting a really common myth. A lot of people naturally assume that matchday ticket sales are the main financial driver here. I mean, you see millions of fans packing out these massive stadiums, so you'd think ticketing is the engine, right? Actually, no. In reality, ticketing is just a tiny fraction of the overall puzzle. During a typical World Cup cycle, ticket sales might bring in a few $100 million. Now, yeah, that sounds like a lot, but it doesn't even come close to explaining the billions in pure profit generated over a 4-year cycle.
Part 2, FIFA's billion-dollar revenue streams.
So let's shift our focus away from the fans in the stands and look directly at the true corporate engines powering this beast. The real money, and I mean the overwhelming majority of the revenue, comes from broadcasting rights. Television networks around the globe pay astronomical amounts for the exclusive right to show World Cup matches. In a recent 4-year cycle, broadcasting rights alone brought in nearly $3 billion. That's over 50% of total revenue right there. Why? Because over 3 billion people tune in globally. It's half the planet. And when half the globe is watching your broadcast, we get to the next massive revenue driver: sponsorships. Global brands happily fork over hundreds of millions of dollars to become official partners, just dying to get their products in front of that captive global audience.
So broadcasting and sponsorships are obviously the heavy hitters, but FIFA definitely doesn't stop there. Beyond those main engines, they capitalize on some highly lucrative secondary streams. We're talking official merchandise, global licensing agreements, digital content, but one of the most fascinating and rapidly growing ones is exclusive VIP hospitality packages. These aren't just premium seats. These are elite corporate experiences bundled with high-end dining, exclusive access, luxury hotels. Corporations pay a massive premium to wine and dine clients at the World Cup, and this single stream can generate hundreds of millions of dollars on its own. Every single one of these streams flows straight back to the organization, letting them clear billions in total revenue by the time the tournament wraps up.
Part 3, the host country gamble.
So we've seen how FIFA guarantees its corporate profit, but what about the sovereign risk? Because hosting the World Cup sounds incredibly exciting on paper, but in reality, it places a truly monumental financial burden on the chosen nation. To understand this, just look at the immense infrastructural checklist forced upon a host country. Step 1, they almost always have to build brand new, state-of-the-art stadiums. Step 2, they've got to completely upgrade their airports just to handle the massive influx of international flights. Step 3, heavily improving local roads, public transit, and hotel capacities. These are not small projects. Historically, we've seen countries build entirely new metro systems or even construct huge stadiums in super remote locations just to meet capacity requirements. We're talking multi-billion-dollar municipal overhauls totally rushed to completion for just 1 month of soccer. So why do countries fight so hard for the chance to do it? Let's break down the pros and cons. The supporters will argue the pros. It gives a huge short-term boost to tourism, creates thousands of construction and service jobs, and acts like a massive global billboard to attract international investment. And yeah, for a short period, economic activity explodes. Hotels are booked solid, restaurants are packed, local businesses are thriving. But the critics point straight to the cons. The stark reality of the aftermath is that once those tourists pack up and leave, those newly built, highly specialized stadiums often just sit there, completely unused. Economists literally call them white elephants. Yet their maintenance costs stay incredibly high. And who ends up footing that lingering, staggering bill? You guessed it, the local taxpayers.
Part 4. Who really wins financially? All right, we've seen the money coming in and we've seen the money going out. But when the dust actually settles, who comes out ahead? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly it divides the guaranteed winners from the risk takers. On one side, we have our clear, undeniable financial winners. FIFA earns its billions through media and sponsorship rights, with essentially zero risk to its own infrastructure. Global sponsors get unparalleled worldwide exposure. And the immediate tourism industries like hotel chains and airlines see major guaranteed gains during that month. But on the flip side, for the host countries, the outcomes are dramatically variable. Some might actually manage to squeeze out long-term benefits from their modernized infrastructure and the bump in international recognition. But a lot of others completely struggle to justify the staggering costs once the tournament is over. And that leads us to this defining concept. The World Cup is just so much more than a sporting event. For economists, it is literally a billion-dollar economic experiment played out on a global stage every 4 years. It's a constant, ongoing debate in the financial world over whether taking on those immense upfront costs is actually a smart long-term investment for a nation's infrastructure or just a deeply flawed financial decision.
Part 5. An investment or a gamble?
The next time you sit down to watch a World Cup match, I want you to remember what we've covered today. Because behind every single goal scored, behind every passionate celebration, and every dramatic trophy lift, there is a giant unseen business operation moving billions upon billions of dollars around the world. So I want to leave you with a hypothetical scenario to really put this into perspective. Imagine your own country. Imagine your government deciding to take $10 billion of national funds to host this tournament for a single month. Looking at the broadcasting profits that leave the country, compared to the unused stadiums and the taxpayer bills left behind, would you call that $10 billion an investment in your country's future, or would you call it a gamble? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear how you weigh the pros and cons for your own hometown. And please don't forget to subscribe for more explainers just like this one, where we decode the money, the business, and the hidden economics behind the world's most staggering events. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.